Hi and welcome to this expert session about creating adaptive websites. We're going to tell you everything about adaptive websites that we know, and at the end I think you will be eager and enthusiastic and inspired to create your own adaptive website. This presentation is for digital teams that are creating digital platforms for websites, for e-commerce operations, but they are at the moment building generic websites. One size fits all websites. Doesn't really matter who visits this website, the website always acts more or less the same. That's what we call a generic website. But these teams, and I hope you're one of them and working in one of them, they really want to make the switch to a better web, to a web that adapts itself, websites that adapt themselves based on the preferences, the behavior and the context of visitors. That's what we call adaptive websites. Websites that really connect to their visitors. And because they connect better with their visitors, they enhance the overall experience of those visitors. They increase engagement with these visitors. And very importantly, they boost conversions. And boosting these conversions can be quite significant. We see conversion rates rise with 30% and more for these websites. So it's not just a nice gimmick you add to your website. When you create an adaptive website from the start and you really invest in it, you can gain a lot from it. My name is Bernard Jan Boekholt. I work as CXO at Prepr CMS. Prepr is a CMS that you can use to build adaptive websites. That's pretty obvious, I think. Today is all about adaptive websites. It's not so much about Prepr. What does a CXO do? That's the question I get a lot of the time. And CXO stands for Chief Experience Officer. My role is that I'm responsible for the overall experience of digital teams and our clients with Prepr CMS. From looking at our website and exploring if Prepr is a solution for you, until the experience with Prepr, implementing a front end with Prepr, content modeling, personalization, implementing Prepr in a larger digital platform. All these things I'm concerned with, and I talk with a lot of digital teams about that. Today we really want to focus on one of the basic aspects of Prepr, and that is that it allows you to create these adaptive websites very easily. But what is an adaptive website and what can you do with it? That's the main topic of today. Before I worked at Prepr, I've been working as a website strategy consultant for over 20 years now, and I've worked on dozens of projects, large, small and everything in between. And when I created these websites with a team, there was always one thing in the back of my mind, and that was that I was thinking that every website we build as a team should behave like one of your best friends. And what do best friends do? They listen carefully to you. They remember the things you say and come back on it maybe the day after today. They show empathy, they inspire you, they make you laugh, and maybe the most important thing of all, they say the right thing at the right moment. And that's exactly how I want my websites to behave. But in reality, and I know you have these experiences as well, most websites, well, they don't act like that best friend. They more act like a friend that's only interested in himself, who talks about himself, forgets your birthday, doesn't know where you went on vacation, and frankly, isn't a real good friend. That's not what we want. We want better websites. We can do better. We can make the web a better place, more friendly, more personal, just like your best friends. And we do that with adaptive websites. Websites that remember who you are, not in a creepy way, in a friendly way, and help you get things done the way you want them to be done. And that's what the topic is of today's presentation. And it's not only that I think that the web should be like that, but most consumers, and this is research, it's quoted often, it's a McKinsey and Company study done a few years ago. The majority of consumers are used to personalization on the web, and as long as it's not creepy and useful, they really like it when websites are personalized. And we see that every day. We see it all around us, all the time. For example, when we use all these big tech tools and websites that we visit every day. For example, when you log into Netflix, you get a personalized homepage, and that's very convenient because then you can continue watching where you left off the day before, for example. Or when you log into your Spotify account, you get personalized recommendations that fit your mood, that fit the time of the day, and that makes discovering new music and listening to just the right music at the right time very convenient. And of course, when you go shopping, maybe on Amazon.com, Amazon knows who you are and recommends products that fit your lifestyle. Can be a little bit annoying sometimes, but most of the time it's very helpful. So we are already very used to personalized websites and how helpful they are and how they can make your life easier. This is personalization as we know it on a day-to-day basis. And it's personalization by big tech. We call this hyper-personalization. And it works very well. That's why these companies do this, of course. But it's also complex. It will take a lot of resources and knowledge and data to accomplish this level of personalization. And honestly, this is probably too complex for the rest of us. For smaller companies, mid-sized companies, larger companies, but not on the enterprise level. They just don't have the resources most of the time. They don't have the data. They don't have the tools and the systems to make this work. So we are looking at a more simpler way of personalization that can work for these companies. And one example I like to highlight immediately is Iamsterdam. This is a website we worked on for the past few years on personalizing the experience in a very simple way. It's the tourist website for Amsterdam. There's more to it. It's also for entrepreneurs and people living in Amsterdam, but most of it is a tourist website. And our efforts made sure that the conversion rates tripled on this website by the help of personalization. Some of the things we did, quite simple things. We looked at the people visiting the website and we just looked at where are they interested in. Are they interested in visiting a museum, or are they more interested in shopping locations or restaurants or nightlife or whatever. We just remembered those tidbits of information and we provided these people with recommendations that fitted their interest. And this worked very well. So here you see that someone who visits the websites, looks at the shopping and markets. We give them recommendations based on this behavior, and that worked very well. People engaged more with the website. Another example of what we did is that people who participated, this people living in Amsterdam who participated in a promotion, they left their zip code when they entered the promotion, and later when they came back to the site, we offered them tips and events based on the neighborhood they live in. And this also worked very well. And this is just a simple and straightforward example of what we call segment-based personalization. And segment-based personalization compared to the hyper-personalization is more general. It's less creepy. It's more based on groups, segments that have a similar characteristic, like in the Iamsterdam example, all people who want to visit a museum or all shopping lovers. Those segments is what we target, instead of the previous examples where we talked about hyper-personalization and you target really individuals. So today we're talking about segment-based personalization, and to give you a very quick insight in what the pros and cons of both approaches are. This is probably the most complicated graph of the whole presentation, and it's not that complicated at all. What it tries to explain, in the top right corner you see hyper-personalization there. It has the largest gain. It can be very, very effective. We all know that from the social media channels in the examples we just showed. But it takes a lot of resources. It takes quite a large investment to get this going. And it's just not available to all of us. When we look at segment-based personalization, you can get very good results with that for a fraction of the investment you have to make to hyper-personalize an experience. And that really is where segment-based personalization shines. With a limited effort, you can get a huge gain for your website visitors and for your company as a whole. That's segment-based personalization. So now we know a little bit of what it is and what it can do for you. Let's dive in more detail. This presentation has two big parts. The first part is that we dive a little deeper into what an adaptive website really is. What is it? We'll give you a practical demo that you can see it in action. And we look at the benefits of an adaptive website and why we think every website should be adaptive, and we believe that every website will be adaptive in 5 to 10 years. Then the second part of the presentation is all about, okay, you've convinced me, I'm enthusiastic, my next website is going to be adaptive, but please tell me, how do I do that? And we have some tips on how to do that, and we focus those tips on the people you need to build an adaptive website. Spoiler, it's the same people you are already working with. The process, what steps do I need to take to build an adaptive website, especially what new steps or other steps do I have to take. Spoiler, it's not that many. And the technology, what technology do I need to build an adaptive website? Well, of course, I'm going to tell that Prepr CMS is an excellent solution for that, but we'll dive in a little deeper to see what other options you have. So let's go. Understanding adaptive websites first. Here's our definition. An adaptive website is a website that changes its content in real time based on each visitor's preferences, behavior, location, and more. Another way of putting it is that the website adapts the content and maybe the look and feel of the website based on what people think, what they like, what they do, or what the context of that visitor is. So the context might also be something that you adapt the website to. We have examples of weather playing a part. So when it's sunny weather, for example, for these the Iamsterdam website, tourist information websites, we offer other recommendations than when it's raining, for example. That might be a contextual factor, a very well-known contextual factor that you could take into account for your website is whether people are using a mobile device or a desktop device and maybe changing the content based on that. That's an adaptive website, and by personalizing the experience with your adaptive website, you can increase engagement, increase conversions, and enhance the overall satisfaction of your visitors. Here I have a demo. Yeah, there it is. It's Acme Lease. It's a virtual leasing company that we use for these kinds of demos. And when you see the website of Acme Lease, you see welcome to Acme Lease, find your car, and you see a lot of recommendations, or 3 recommendations, and it's just generic. There's no real connection between these cars, it's just 3 random cars that are here. So this is a generic homepage. But that's not what we want. We are going to look at a specific visitor. In this case, it's Ellen. You see her here. She's logged into her browser, although that doesn't matter. She's looking for an electric car to lease for the business. So she can lease an electric car for her business. And she sees this ad for Acme Lease about business leasing electric cars. She clicks that ad and she lands on the landing page for Electric Lease. And it says, lease an electric car today, find your car. So she starts browsing some of these electric cars. You see 3 of them here. She looks at the different cars, maybe looking at this Tesla. She's not ready to buy yet. She's not ready to request a quote, and she leaves the website. And the next day she thinks, oh, I was looking for this car. I'm not sure. I want to look at the website a little more. I remember it's Acme Lease. Let's visit that website again. And she clicks to the homepage of Acme Lease and see what happened. The homepage of the website is adapted to her preferences. Now it's not a generic homepage anymore, but it's the adapted homepage for people interested in electric cars. We call them electric car lovers. The headline says Green Your Drive, lease top electric cars, and the recommendations are now recommendations for electric cars. You see the Tesla here that she visited, etc. And this is just a very simple and practical example of an adaptive website. Okay, that for a quick demo. So what did we see here and what do we have now? Here is a very simple image of an adaptive website. You see visitors visiting a generic website. This website should act like a funnel, in this case for quote requests, but since it's generic, it doesn't adapt and it doesn't really connect with all the visitors that well. So some people convert, but there's also a lot of conversion loss. With an adaptive website that you see here on the right, it works a lot better. You have these different segments. We have two segments here. We have the electric car lovers on the left and we have the used car lovers on the right. And now since the website adapts to its visitors and connects better with these visitors, the conversion rate increases. You have less drop-off, you have less conversion loss, and engagement and conversions can increase by, well, 30% or more. And it's not just our idea. More and more reports like this State of Personalization report that was conducted this year, 89% of leaders believe personalization will be a critical success factor for them in the next few years. We already talked about the benefits of making your website adaptive. You can create better experiences, engagement increases, the conversion rates increase. But you can also have better retention. People are more inclined to come back. If they have a good experience, they come back more often. Building an adaptive website for different visitor segments gives you a lot of data about the behavior of those visitors and these different visitor groups, and you can leverage this data to make smarter decisions, smarter choices for optimizing your website. So that's a big benefit as well. And for now, since most websites are not adaptive but still generic, it gives you a competitive edge because people will prefer your website above the websites of your competitors. So here we have 6 of the biggest benefits of creating an adaptive website. So what makes an adaptive website different from a generic website? Well, of course, it's the adaptiveness, and there are 3 key elements to that. Very simply stated, they are segments. Instead of looking at your audience as one generic group of people, you divide your audience in different segments and different visitor groups that share a common characteristic. Can be age, can be interest, like we saw with the tourists, can be gender, can be anything in the end. But most websites have different personas or visitor types, and that's what the segments are made of. Second thing is adaptive content. So what content are you going to make adaptive on your website? So that's the second part of it. And instead of one image for your homepage or one headline for your homepage, you might have 3 or 4 or 5 headlines for your homepage. So you will have more content, more targeted to these different segments. And to make this all work, you need data. You need data about your visitors. Can be very simple data like click data. What have these people visited on your website and what does that tell me about their interest? Can be data from a customer data platform, for example. But you need to know something about your visitors before you can adapt. If you don't know anything about your visitors, you really can't adapt to them. But in reality, very small things can tell you a lot very quickly on a website. Our experience is that within 1-2 clicks, you have a very good understanding of the intent and the interest of that visitor, and you can start adapting the website based on that. A very logical example that we see a lot is that people enter your website through a landing page, and these landing pages are targeted towards a specific segment most of the time, and they immediately tell you what kind of visitor this is, and you can start adapting on the next page immediately. Those are the 3 things that you need to keep in mind when building an adaptive website: segments, customer data, adaptive content. What we often do with our customers and people that want to create an adaptive website is that we do an adaptive website workshop, and we fill out this adaptive website blueprint. And that's where we collect all the information about the 3 pillars that we just talked about. So we are looking at who are the segments that you want to target, how can you identify them, what data do you need, and what are you going to show to them. Before we do that, we look at the objectives of all of this. Why are we making this website adaptive? What do we want? Most of the time, 2 things really stand out for these objectives. Mostly, first of all, we want to increase engagement. We want people to stay longer on your site, stay more engaged on your site, be more engaged with your content. And secondly, and most importantly, we want to increase conversions. In the Acme Lease example, this was all about increasing the number of quote requests. And then at the end of such a session, we have a lot of information about the ideas you have as a team about how to make your website adaptive. The last column here, the last part of this blueprint, collects some of the ideas into concrete next steps that you can take as a team. Our experience is that when a team comes in, they are a little bit like, okay, we're not knowing what's going to happen. We like this personalization ID, we like this adaptive content and adaptive website ID, but how does this work and what is it really? And after the workshop, they have structured their IDs with the blueprints. They have collected these IDs in a prioritized list of small, manageable chunks that they can implement in a sprint, and they can start building an adaptive website or adjusting their current website to be more adaptive. So really helpful tool for teams that clarifies and structures this new approach to your website. If you want to learn more about adaptive websites and see different examples of adaptive websites, we've created 5 inspiring examples of different website types. We have Acme TV, Acme Academy, Acme Agency, Acme Commerce, and Acme Community. All archetypal websites that you see all over the web. I'll make sure there's a link to these websites in the description, in the notes of this video. Please visit those examples and look at how adaptive content can be applied to different websites. So, already nicely on our way. I think we've established what an adaptive website is, why it's important to you, and we looked a little bit into how it works. Next part of this presentation is about, okay, how can I create an adaptive website? And for this, when you want to implement something new, I always like this framework about people, process, and technology that uses these different lenses to look at this new concept, this new idea that you want to implement from different perspectives. And it's people is about who do you need to get this going. The process is about what steps do you need to take to create an adaptive website, and technology is about what tools do you need, what systems do you need, what technology do you need to create an adaptive website. We are going to look at all 3 of those. First, the team. I'm not going to spend too much time there. As a digital team, you probably already have the people needed to create an adaptive website. You have a strategist who is already thinking about the segments that are visiting your website, maybe together with a data analyst to see from the data who's visiting your website. Then you have content creators, developers, marketers, UX designers. Depends a little bit on how big the team is that you work in. You might have a very small team with a developer and a UX designer and maybe a project manager. And that's the team that you have. Or you might have a very large team that has all these people in it and maybe even more than that. But what it all comes down to is that you don't need other people to build an adaptive website. The same people that are on your team right now can build an adaptive website. There might be a little bit more emphasis on the data analysis part, so a data analyst can come in handy. He's or she is the one who can help you based on the data decide on what segments you want to target, and he or she can also help you analyze the results of your segmentation and your adaptive content and optimize based on that. So that's probably the most important thing that's slightly different from your existing team. Then the process. What steps do you take to create an adaptive website? We've created this 3-step process, and these 3 steps correspond with the 3 main phases you have when you are building a website. The first phase is the strategic planning phase. The second phase is what we call the Agile Development phase. This is where teams, mostly using an agile approach with sprints, build the first version and then other versions of this web application. And the third part is, after the website goes live, you might have this ongoing agile development phases, but then a continuous optimization process often comes into place where you look at the results of the website and based on these results make adjustments to the website and optimize the website. To make an adaptive website, the strategic planning phase is really where the magic happens. If you set the adaptive approach, the adaptive vision clearly within this strategic planning phase, you're all set for the agile development and the continuous optimization phase. And they are exactly the same as what you do now. But in the strategic planning phase, you have to look at some other things than you probably did before. We've created a large article about all the steps in the strategic planning phase. I'm just going over them very quickly here, and we will link to the article in the description of the video. Here are some things you need to take into account when you are planning your adaptive website. And this is really where the strategist or the product owner of your team should have everybody on the team and all the stakeholders on the team involved on this adaptive vision. And that's the first thing that you do. When you set out the product vision, the website vision for this project, please include the adaptive vision right from the start to get everybody on the same page. In this product vision, you are already thinking about the target audiences for your website. So it's a very small step into implementing your adaptive vision in this product strategy and saying we are not only thinking about these audiences, but we are really going to make a website that adapts to these different preferences of these audiences. When you've established your product vision, the next step is, if you want to get more to grips with an adaptive website, fill out this adaptive website blueprint with your team. Probably it's new for your team. It's the first time that they are working with an adaptive website. So this is a nice exercise to get everybody on the same page with this adaptive content, to add a little bit more detail to that. What segments do we want to target? What content do we want to make adaptive? This can be a high-level exercise. We just saw an example a few minutes ago. Do that exercise and use that exercise to create some high-level designs. And that's the next step. Mostly when creating a new website, the UX designer creates some high-level designs of often visited pages and templates in this website, like the home page and a product detail page, for example. In this case, it's very good to create a second version of your home page. It doesn't have to be completely new design, but use other content. Like in the first page, you put the generic content that's for somebody that you don't know and can't adapt to. And then the second version is for a specific segment, say the electric car lovers, and you show what the website would look like for this electric car lovers. And this makes it very easy for other stakeholders to understand what this will mean for the website and what this means concretely for the project when you want to make it adaptive. And then the last thing you do in this phase, or it's not the last thing that you do, but you have to look at the technology, because you need some extra technology or you need some special technology to make this work. So you have to have roughly an idea of how you are going to implement this adaptiveness. I'm not going into too much detail now because we have the technology section coming up and we'll dive into that in more detail then. After you've established everything on a high level, like your vision, the design and the technology, it's time to get approval from all your stakeholders. Does everybody buy into your adaptive vision? What do you think of your ideas and the ideas of your team? Maybe they have some feedback that you need to incorporate. And then you get the approval for the project. And then there's one step left, and that is to make sure that for the next phase, the development phase, you have everything prepared for them to start developing. And what you do is you create all this backlog with all these stories for the website that need to be created. That's what you already did. And now you incorporate some stories that relate to making the website adaptive, like defining the segments, how you are going to collect data for these segments, how you set up the segments in the system, how you publish the content in an adaptive way, and stories like that. We actually have a free checklist that helps you with defining these stories. So I think in the checklist there are quite a few example stories that you can implement for your project to make it adaptive, just as a thought starter and a checklist, so you don't forget anything. It's not a long list, but of course you need some additional steps to make your website adaptive. Okay, and then it's time for the next step. We already talked about it. It's about the technology that you want to use for making your website adaptive. And I think that's maybe the part that makes it complex for a lot of people and makes people confused. And that's already also what you see in this quote from this Gartner study that says that 63% of digital marketing executives find it challenging to customize experiences for customers. And that this has everything to do with how creating an adaptive website, a personalized website used to be. And we have this, try to explain this a little bit in this illustration. Until recently, when you wanted to create an adaptive website, you really have to have this multi-system setup, as we call it. And it's a setup where you have multiple systems that work together seamlessly to create this adaptive experience, because there's not one tool that can create this experience for you. So maybe you have your CMS there, you have a customer data platform, you have a personalization engine. You want to make that work together seamlessly, and then you can create an adaptive website. And this can be done in two ways, by the way. You can have front-end solutions or client-side solutions that do this for you, which have their benefits and their downsides. They are easier to implement, but they have some downsides as well. And you have server-side technology to do this. Goes a little bit beyond this presentation, beyond the scope of this presentation, to dive into all the details there. There is some information on that on our website. But the main thing is you used to need multiple systems to create this. And I think that's the main reason, the complexity of this setup is the main reason why most websites are generic. It's just complexer than creating a generic website. And that's why most teams decide not now, later, maybe never. Big pros of this approach: you can create a great solution if you have the resources and the budget to create a platform like this. Please do. There are excellent examples of very nice adaptive websites and hyper-personalized websites based on a similar approach. But there are some downsides as well, that it's a complex integration, and then quite frankly for a lot of businesses this is just out of their league and it's not attainable. And then we have the other option, and that's what we call a CMS with personalization capabilities. Until recently, CMSs only concerned about the content for the website. And that's the place where you manage all the content, all the articles, the headlines, the images, everything you see on your website was managed with a CMS. But the CMS wasn't able to personalize this content, so you needed a separate system for that. But now, with advancing technology, you see that more and more CMSs are incorporating this technology and the tools and functions you need to make a website adaptive into the CMS. And that makes a lot of sense because your content already lives there. So to make the content adaptive, that's a logical place to do. That's what we call a CMS with personalization capabilities. Then you don't have to worry about this complex setup because all the complexity is within the system already and it's taken care of for you. So the pros are that it's a simple setup, it's cost effective because it's less expensive than this multi-system setup, and you have a faster time to market. It doesn't take that long to implement. There are downsides to this solution as well. Of course, the customization and the flexibility you have with this solution is less than with the other solution that's custom made, and you can decide yourself on what options do you need, what systems fit best with that, and that gives you the most flexibility. So it might be limited for your situation, and it's less specialized. So when you use these specialized tools for segmenting and personalization and data collection, you probably have more options than what you will find in a CMS with personalization capabilities. So each solution has its pros and cons. Broadly speaking, when you have the resources and the money and the time available to create this multi-system setup platform, please do. It's a great solution. But if you have less resources, you're short on time, and you want to have these quick results that really can improve your customer experience, then go with a CMS with personalization capabilities. There can be a debate on whether it's a good thing or a bad thing to do this in a CMS. Obviously, we are biased there, but we see some analysts like Forrester heading in that direction as well. So this is a quote from one of their recent studies. Companies are increasingly delivering personalized experiences through modular content. Modular content is structured content. It's content from a headless CMS. They are more and more personalizing this experience, and that's a trend that we see as well. And they say the CMS ultimately serves as the orchestrator of these experiences, and we believe that as well. You might disagree, but this is how we see the market. So this gives you a broad overview of adaptive websites, what they are, where you start when implementing them. And the last part, very quickly, about Prepr CMS, which is of course the second solution, CMS with personalization capabilities that allows you to create adaptive content. This is a quick screenshot of Prepr. It's the content part, so where you manage the content. In this case, we have an example of the homepage of Acme Lease. Here you see the different elements that are on that page, like the header and some image and text and some other things. And what you see here is, you see these different headers that are on that homepage. So you see for the used car lovers, we have a heading specifically targeting them. For the electric car lovers, you see the green your drive, lease top electric cars. And for all other users that are not, that we don't know anything about yet, they get the generic headline. And lower on the page you see we do A/B testing as well, so we have different call to actions. We also could do different call to actions for different segments, something you can do with Prepr. And then when you have these personalizations, you of course need segments. So this is a quick view of how you can set up segments in Prepr. It's just a matter of creating conditions for your segments to define who your segments are, maybe based on the landing page they viewed or the country they are visiting from, or other things they are doing on your website that allow you to segment these people. And then the last thing I want to show you very quickly is that when you have this adaptive website and you have these personalizations on your page, you start collecting data and you see very accurate data about the behavior of your visitors on these personalized components on your homepage. So in this case, for the header of the website, you can exactly see how long people looked at the different versions of this header, and you can look at the conversion rate of each version and if it performs better or worse than the generic version of the website. And that's it. A quick introduction. It's a whole story and a whole presentation, but a quick introduction to creating adaptive websites. I can imagine that there are a lot of questions or details that you like to look into. We have quite a few resources on creating an adaptive website already. When you visit our website, you can't miss the complete guide to creating an adaptive website. If you have some things in the presentation, in the video that you want to learn more about, it's probably in the guide. Check that out. You can find it on our website for free. No need to leave an email address. Same goes for the checklist for adaptive website projects. It's on the website there as well. You can download it for free, and you have a very quick and practical step-by-step checklist for creating your adaptive website, which starts with building your vision and helps you with creating these user stories that you need to implement an adaptive website. If you want to take the first step, please fill out a blueprint like the one you see on the screen to get going with the team, to brainstorm ideas, to get a shared understanding of what the next step could be for you, your website, and making it adaptive. And if you are into it and you really want to take it to the next level, you can always contact us. I do a lot of in-person sessions with digital teams about adaptive content. It's often a very inspiring session. We start off with your situation, so it's not a long presentation like this one. We start off with your situation. Where are you as a team? Who is on your team? What are you trying to accomplish? We ask you to come to the table with a use case. Might be a customer project, might be your own website, and then we dive into creating this blueprint together. And at the end of the session, you have a filled out blueprint. If you have other questions, we'll answer all your questions, and then you are ready to take the next step to build an adaptive website. You don't have to do that with Prepr. If you want to implement it in another way, it's totally fine with us. Just book this call and we'll take it from there. I hope to see you there. If you want to reach out to me, I'm available, of course. This is my LinkedIn address. You can connect there through LinkedIn. And yeah, that's probably it. I hope this was useful for you. Let's make the web a better place together. Let's make the web adaptive. Thanks for watching. See you later.